Aloha and good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, January 13, 2026, and the time is 9:15 a.m. Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? I'd like to welcome to the committee. We'd like to welcome committee members who are present in the chamber today. We have Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto, Councilmember Kia Aina, and we'd like to also welcome Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Although remote oral testimony is being permitted, this is a regular in-person meeting and not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology. Under HRS Section 92-3.7, therefore, the meeting will continue notwithstanding loss of audiovisual communication with remote testifiers or loss of the public broadcast of the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely via video conference or phone. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. After in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name, please monitor your screen and follow the prompt to unmute. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 if you wish to testify, and I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please listen for the prompt to unmute and press *6. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. And as a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Moving to agenda item number 1 for action, Resolution 25-237. This resolution authorizes a transfer not to exceed $321,684 in general fund monies from the provision for federally funded program contingencies activity, current expenses CE, character of expenditure COE, to the Department of Emergency Management DEM, Emergency Management Coordination Activity Salary COE, to provide DEM with the resources required to fill and sustain planner positions, ensuring that DEM can effectively manage and implement federally supported programs. I have here that with us we have Dr. Randall A. Collins, the CEM Director from the Department of Emergency Management. I see that that's not the case. Thank you so much for being here, Deputy Director. If you could just state your name for the record.
Good morning, Committee Chair and Committee members. My name is Jennifer Walter. I'm the Deputy Director at the Department of Emergency Management. The purpose of this resolution is to ensure that we have access to funding. We rely on a grant that we receive every year to fund several positions at the Department of Emergency Management. And the federal government has given us indication that this grant, the period of performance isn't changing. So usually when one grant year ends, the same grant begins again, and we can continue funding those positions with the same grant. They are adjusting the dates of the grant so that the next year's funding that would normally give us the money to fund these positions is ending at the same time as the current year. So this allows us to continue funding those positions with the fund that BFS is set up for this purpose.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Members, do we have any questions for Deputy Director? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-327 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, Deputy Director. Moving on to agenda item number 2 for action, Resolution 25-331. This resolution authorizes a transfer not to exceed $34,400,000 in general fund monies from the provision for hazard pay activity, current expenses character of expenditure, COE, to the provision for hazard pay activity salaries, COE, for the fiscal year 2026 in order to record salaries in the provision for hazard pay activity. I have on my agenda from the Director Kawano, I didn't see you. Thank you for being here. We have from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Thank you, Budget Chair Okimoto. We appreciate the opportunity to testify on Resolution 25331. This transfer is really not a transfer of funds per se, but a recharacterization of the provisional that we adopted for the temporary hazard pay payout. The provisional is at $34.4 million. It's currently, however, under current expenses in the budget bill. We want to move it to salaries, which would be much cleaner. And with that, we would be able to much more efficiently pay out hazard pay to the remaining unions that we are in negotiation with. So currently, we still have to pay out HFFA, fire, and we're also going to be working on the OTS settlement as well. Thank you.
Okay. Director, before I turn it over to the members, I just had a couple of follow-up questions. And you did mention that, which I know we're aware of, that we have the HFFA and the OTS is working on their bargaining, but does the authorization anticipate any additional appropriations that will be necessary for provisional hazard pay for fiscal year 2027? And if so, in what amount?
You know, it's going to depend on how the negotiations with OTS go. At this point, we feel good about where we are, where we're headed towards with HFFA. So as of right now, I don't think we're going to request for, an additional appropriation in 27.
Okay, are there any, other than this, any other you mentioned the OTS and HFFA, any other ongoing negotiations or settlement discussions with other public worker unions? I'm just trying to anticipate what we have to prepare for that are still pending in this resolution.
So fire and Teamsters are the main ones.
Other than that, that's...
What we're doing right now with regard to HGEA, and I think to some extent SHOPO, there's some cleanup. There are some minor corrections being made to small numbers of payouts or perhaps non-payouts to members that are in the process of being corrected. But those amounts the amounts that will be corrected are immaterial to the overall payouts to those unions.
Okay. And then one more, hopefully it's a quick one. Was this $115 million appropriation for the provision for hazard pay for fiscal year 2025 expended or encumbered?
That entire appropriation was encumbered.
It was.
And when we figure out what the final payouts will be, when everything's completely settled and cleaned up, we'll determine what would lapse at that point in time.
So there's no date at this time? Is there a date?
We don't have a final target date. What I can say is that we're working through a few open items for both. SHOPO, and HGEA.
Is there a date where the funds will lapse? Is there a deadline for that? Is it,
I don't know right now if any amount will lapse.
okay, because that would be concerning if we lapse on the funds and I'm worried about this being the year that it will lapse and we didn't utilize them, but you're saying that we did, they have been expended and encumbered.
Yes,
Okay,
it's been encumbered and it's in the process of being expended now.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to welcome to the chamber, thank you, Director. Welcome to the Chamber Council Chair Waters. And members, do we have questions for Director Kawano? We are on Resolution 25-331, authorizing the transfer of funds for the 34 million. Yeah, Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Director. Has UPW been paid?
Yes, I believe their payout happened first. Yeah.
Okay. And you're saying we're waiting on a few other items before HGA and SHOPO?
Yeah, we're doing cleanup. There are some claims that were employee. For instance, let's talk about HGA first. They're a smaller group of employees who are not paid because they were 100% teleworking. They were in that category. And in our process, if you're working 100% at home, you don't qualify for the payout, but they're claiming that they in fact did work a day or 2 days or 3 days, so they're saying that they should receive the payout. So we're working through that process right now.
Okay, those couple people who are still in negotiations, that holds up everybody else though?
Everybody was paid.
I see.
The payment went out for HGA, but the payment went out, and as I guess employees talk and people compare, there were certain smaller groups of employees who felt that either they weren't paid, they should have been paid, or perhaps an even smaller group of employees saying that they should have been paid the larger amount. So instead of $7,500, they're saying that we should be paid $15,000.
I see. Yeah. So most police officers and most HGA members have been paid?
Virtually all of them have been paid. We're just doing post-payment cleanup right now. I guess you can call it that.
So what's this $34,400,000 going to be used for?
The 34.4 in the FY26 budget is primarily for the HFFA settlement that's nearing finalization of negotiation, and OTS, so Teamsters.
Oh, terrific. So you mean the firefighters, right? And the bus drivers?
Yes.
Fantastic.
So yeah, the members that fall into those employee groups.
Okay. Are you able to give us a little bit more information with regard to the status of the firefighters and the bus drivers and the negotiations for hazard pay only?
Yeah, I think you would have to request from the managing director's office that information because it's with him right now.
I see.
And he's having discussion with the union, the HFFA union.
Okay.
And any staff there that's supporting the process.
Sure. Okay. Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Members, any further questions for the Director? Thank you, Director. Seeing no further questions, we will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person registered or non-registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Yes, Chair, we have one standing by.
Okay, I believe we have online with us Mr. Donald Sakamoto. Good morning, Mr. Sakamoto. If you could unmute and just state your name for the record.
Yes, Chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair Donald Sakamoto, members of the Budget Committee, longtime advocate for public transportation, bus and paratransit skyline. I deal with the Teamsters a lot. I know Mr. Kevin Holo, president, and with the Wild Transit, they represent the bus and handy van drivers, operators. This is very crucial for them to get hazard pay. They've been having people that die from COVID on the bus and the handyman side. So I strongly urge you to pass this resolution to give them the pay that they deserve. And thank you for Budget Director Andy Quano to give the explanation about what's going on. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sakamoto. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Are there any further remote testifiers? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now proceed. Members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-331 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 3 for action, Resolution 26-5. This resolution authorizes a transfer totaling $15,193,210, not to exceed $15,143,120 in general fund monies, $12,750 in liquor commission fund monies, $35,780 in transportation fund monies, and $1,560 in solid waste special fund monies from the provision for salary adjustments and accrued vacation pay activity, current expenses character of expenditure, COE, to the activities of the executive agencies, salaries, COE, to fund authorized pay increases and accrued vacation payouts. Members, we have distributed a hand-carried proposed CD1 version of the resolution. OCS 2026-0013/1/9/2026 at 2:24 p.m. submitted by myself. The CD1 makes the following amendments. In the third whereas clause clarifies that the transfers from the provision for salary adjustments and accrued vacation pay activity will be from the current expenses CE, character expenditure COE, to the salaries SCOE of the various executive agencies. And B, in the be it resolved clause corrects the source of funds from liquor funds to liquor commission funds. Item C makes miscellaneous technical and non-substantive amendments. With us again, we have from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services Director Andy Kawano.
Thank you, Budget Chair Okimoto, for allowing BFS to testify on Resolution 26-5. So with regard to 26-5, what BFS is doing is allocating amounts adopted in the provisional for salary adjustments and accrued vacation pay to cover pay increases in various pay units under a number of departments to reflect the collective bargaining agreement increases. For FY26, we intentionally increased the provisional to an amount, let's see, I think I wrote it down, to $41.9 million in anticipation of having to reflect higher pay amounts for union members as the CBA agreements were settled. At the time we submitted our budget, the collective bargaining agreements were not settled. We didn't have final numbers. So instead of attempting to estimate, the impact of the CBA by pay unit under each department, we put an estimated amount in the provisional. So right now we're in the process of allocating out the amounts we put in the provisional in FY26 to cover CBA increases. That's why we're doing this. We put this transfer request in. We also responded in a communication to provide more detail on the purpose and the funding source, department, and amounts of the amounts being allocated from the provisional. So we actually provided a detail that comes out to the total. Yeah, leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Kawano. Members, do we have questions for the director? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to focus in on HPD's line items within this resolution. As I recall, we approved HPD's bargaining items last year in Resolution 25284, which had a 5% across-the-board salary increase. Right now, what's being requested via this resolution, specifically for the patrol division, is $12,850,000. So if you divide that out by 0.05, 5%, that implies that if you were to take their base salary for the patrol division, which is $179 million, and take 5% of that, that's just $9 million. So what's the difference between the $12.85 million being requested for patrol and the $9 million that will be implied by their base salary?
You know, looking at the collective bargaining agreement that was executed, you're right. The across-the-board increase was 5%, but when you look at all the details, there were other increases to pay as well. There were step changes, you know, and other adjustments that had to be made. So yeah, you start with that 5% as the base, but there are even more add-ons as a result of the collective bargaining agreement that result in, you know, getting up to the amount of $12,850,000.
Okay. If we could get a little bit more clarity on that, I think that would be helpful because, again, all we see is this large amount being transferred, and all we get from Resolution 25284 was the explanation that it's a 5% salary increase for the collective bargaining.
Yeah, respectfully, Councilmember, if you send us a riser, we can provide more detail on the $12,850,000. Keep in mind that in the adopted budget for FY26, we also took, you know, as a city, a significant decrease in salary allocation for HPD. So that could have had an impact as well. But we can work with the finance team at HPD and get you more details on the $12,850,000.
Okay, yeah, that would be very helpful because at the same time, the amount that's being requested for investigations would imply a base salary of $15 million, where the investigations division of HPD, their base salary on paper is $46 million. So it's much less in that division for some reason than in patrol, whereas in support services, their base salary is about $25.6 million. And the amount here, if you take the 5%, roughly balances out. So for one of the divisions, it's like Goldilocks, I guess. One of the divisions, it's just right. One of the divisions, it's far too low, as the math would imply. And for one, it's far too high. And so I'd like to get a little bit of clarity here, because I remember several months ago, there was a whole discussion about HPD where they're kind of moving things around. It was hard for us to track. And so getting some clarity here, I think, would be really helpful.
Thank you, Councilmember. Understood.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Chair Waters.
Thank you. Good morning again, Director. You know, during the budget process last year, I think I may have asked you if the salary increases were worked into the request that the administration was making. Was that not the case? The salary increases were not included in the budget requests from last year?
I don't like watching my recordings, but I recall we talked about the provisional and the fact that, you know, settlements were not fully completed at the time we submitted budgets. So I recall saying that there's an increased provisional amount to cover that, and we did our best to estimate what we thought it would be, but you know, unfortunately, it probably came out a little more because, again, the settlement for SHOPO not only included an across-the-board increase, but there were, you know, changes in how step increases are recorded, and there were other premiums that were included as well. So all of those had to be reflected, and as I responded to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, we can provide more details on the SHOPA amounts by division, yeah.
Okay, it looks like it's just patrol on this one. Is any of this $12,850,000 used for overtime?
I don't believe so. Yeah, it's all related to pay increases
Okay.
as a result of the collective bargaining agreement that was just executed.
And just to follow up on what Councilmember Dos Santos Tam was talking about, requesting more information. So I did write a letter to you dated January 7th, and you did respond on January 9th. So thank you very much. That was super helpful in clarifying what a lot of this money is going to be used for. But if I may just ask, in the future, when we do such large transfer of funds, that you included either within the actual resolution or included in the transmittal letter. It's just helpful for us. It's helpful for the community to know exactly what the transfer of funds are being used for. Your letter was very helpful, and I appreciate it, but it'd be nice to get that information up front.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for guidance.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. We'd like to welcome to the committee and to the chamber Councilmember Toba. Members, do we have any further questions for the director? Seeing no further questions, thank you, Director Kawano. We'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We will now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 26-5 be amended to a hand-carried CD1 identified as OCS 2026-0013/1/9/2026 at 2:24 p.m. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution is amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 26-5 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 4, Bill 54, 2025, CD1. This bill relates to public transit. Members, please note that the committee approved a proposed CD2 version of the bill, OCS 2025-077-9/9/24/2025 at 11:45 a.m. and postponed action on the bill at its September 23, 2025 meeting. We have a proposed CD2 OCS 2025-095-4/12/16/2025 at 3:02 p.m. submitted by myself. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. With us this morning, we have from the Department of Transportation Services, Director Roger Morton. Good morning, Director Morton.
Aloha, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, members of the committee and council. My name is Roger Morton, and I'm the Director of the Department of Transportation Services. We support the CD1 version. I think that's the one I looked at of the bill. And I'll go through, and I appreciate the effort of the council and the committee chair to carefully go through all of the provisions of this. It's been a while of back and forth, and there has been a lot of sort of give and take over the bill. The large portions of the bill, the highlights of the bill are, it does provide for an increase in the monthly adult and youth categories. It does not increase any of the senior, disabled, Medicare, low income, or paratransit eligible fares for fixed route. It does increase a 25-cent increase in cash fares on bus only for those that use cash, but does not increase the HOLO card fare, which remains at $3 for a single ride. It increases the 7-day pass from $35 to $45. It increases the handy van fare from $225 to $250. We made no changes in the PCA language for that. Altogether, at this point, my estimate of the bill would raise about 3.6 million out of a base of about 45 million. Happy to answer questions from the council.
Thank you, Director Morton. Members, do we have questions for the director? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Director. As you know, the department is required by federal law to do a Title VI analysis, which talks about, or which would study how actions of the department, like fare increases, but all the other things, increasing routes or decreasing routes, would affect minority and underserved populations. As part of that analysis, it did find that there's a disparate impact to poor and minority populations here, and the report actually stated that one of the options is for the City Council not to raise fares. I recognize that you're here before us asking that the fares be raised, but how can you walk us through this process and how much weight you put into the Title VI analysis before it gets to us?
Absolutely. Virtually any change in any fare level for public transit would have a disparate impact because the composition of public transit riders are skewed toward lower income people. So there is no way to not have any impact. The fares have not been increased for about 4 years. The increase is modest. It was studied extensively by the Rate Commission, who endorsed the changes in the bill. And I think that that given the amount of analysis and the amount of public involvement, I personally went to 3 or 4 public meetings over the fare increase over the past 2 years, and that would be my answer. I think the committee has tried to address some of those issues by eliminating any of the increases in low-income fares for both handy van users and for regular transit users. So we've done our best to try to craft it in a way that minimizes the impact.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Members, any further questions for the Director? Okay, thank you, Director Morton. Members, will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay, with us, I have on my list, we have, first I have Mr. Donald Sakamoto.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, and the rest members of the Budget Committee Council. Donald Sako, longtime writer of the bus paratransit, advocate for the system with Citizens for a Fair Americans with Disabilities Ride. I appreciate the language that was put in by Chair about the personal care attendants. We talked about this at the dedication of the second segment of the rail with Director Martin. And I testify as well as DCAB about this situation. So that's wonderful. Regarding with the 25 cents increase for a handy van, we advocated for that, my group of people, for gradually increase. I understand that it's very important to have this paratransit handy van service because it gives us independence for people with disabilities like myself and others. But I read a lot of articles on the Mail and LA Times and everything, and LA is doing a wonderful job in trying to make it more affordable for the people who ride, especially the low income and people on Medicare, Medicaid. I urge you to, Director, to read other cities, what they're doing with their paratransit bus system and rail to increase fares to make it more affordable so more people ride it and don't have to have the burden of going to the piggy bank or looking for money to pay for these things. One more thing, I urge the director that I'm waiting and others are waiting for wallet pay so we can tap our wonderful phones, smartphones on the system on the bus and the paratransit as well as the rail system, so we don't have to carry these holo cards, which cost a lot of money too. But thank you for me allowing to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Sakamoto. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, next I have on my list Ms. Samantha Lara.
Aloha, Chair and members of the committee. I wanted to voice my opposition for Bill 52 and the proposed increase to bus fares for Oahu residents. I come before you as a member of family of bus riders. Public transit is not optional for us. It's how we get to work, school, healthcare, and daily life. Increasing fares would directly burden families who already rely on the bus and are already choosing a safer, more sustainable way to move around our island. If the city's goal is to increase ridership, reduce congestion, and shift travel behavior, raising fares for everyday riders undermines this goal. Transit ridership grows when service is affordable, simple, and welcoming, not when cost becomes another barrier. Oahu is also facing an epidemic of traffic fatalities. Too many lives are being lost on our roads. Supporting public transit is a proven safety strategy. Fewer cars on the roads means fewer crashes, fewer deaths, and safer streets for everyone. At the same time, Honolulu has made serious climate commitments, including long-term emissions reduction goals. Public transit must be treated as an essential climate infrastructure. There are other cities that have successfully been able to put this rate increase on the visitors, so I would very much like to see that. And it just making it extremely easy for those visitors to obtain and reload holo cards. I do live in Waikiki, so I see the visitors very often struggle trying to find and deal with holo cards and getting them. So just wanting to bring that to attention also.
If you could wrap up your testimony, and if you could just state your name for the record. I know you can, if you want to just finish up with your last parts of your testimony, that would be really appreciated.
Sure. I just want to basically say raising fares across the board gives the wrong signal. Choosing public transit is something to voice my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you just state your name for the record, Samantha?
Oh, I did. Samantha,
Oh,
last
okay.
name Lara, Lara.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Clerks, do we have any other remote testifiers? If there's anyone else online who would like to testify at this time, please indicate by raising your hand on your remote device. If not, I will proceed back to in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Yes, Chair, we have some standing by.
Okay. Well, actually, on my list, I have from Local 5, Jolie Tokusato. If you could push the on button. Thank you, Jolie.
Sorry. Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jolie Tokusato with Unite Here Local 5. I just wanted to give my personal 2 cents. Many of our members ride the bus. For years, our union understood that transportation is expensive and parking is limited, so we've put public transportation subsidies in many of our contracts. Last year, we fought hard to get really, really good wages, and we're still struggling. So I feel even sadder for people who are, for the non-union workers who are not as lucky as to have the union like we do, you know. So Local 5 has always fought for good jobs for everybody, not just ourselves. We want you to help us get money from big corporations through good jobs so everyone can contribute into city coffers, and so you guys won't have to nickel and dime us to death in fees and fares. That's what I wanted to say. Get it from the, help us get good jobs instead of taking it from working class struggling people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tokusato. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Next on my list, I have Jarek Olivia.
Hello, good morning, fellow councilmen and council members. My name is Jarek. I am also a hotel worker and part of Unite Here Local 5. I'm also one that utilizes the bus system, and I rise in full opposition of this proposal. just to say, we always preach about affordability in our state, and we are one of the states that, in counties is priced out of paradise. And to have this increase in fares, especially for Holo cards, having to pay $80 currently and having to rise to $90 is so not Pono. So please, I urge this council to vote a no opposition to keep our communities and your constituents so that they can continue to utilize public transportation as well as the rail and the bus, because many of our hotel workers do utilize it, commuting from Waikiki to whether it's Aiea or to the west side. It is very crucial because if you want to drive a car and park in Waikiki, I can tell you that where you have to park, they charge us at least $200.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olivia. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, next we have Angela Melody Young.
Good job, you guys. Aloha, Chair and Committee. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. Of course, I'm going to be in support of the Department of Transportation Services because transportation is very needed in our community. And so I think for the extremely low income classification of disadvantaged demographics, there could be consideration that because the reduced program is administered from the Department of Community Services, maybe there can be some sort of equity provided to finance some of the people who are at kind of like the bottom level of society that need a little like assistance. So if you're going to increase the fares, then perhaps you can still find a pot of money somewhere to help the extremely low income people. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela Melody Young. Do we have any questions for the testifier, members? Are there any other testifiers in person who would like to speak up at this time? Seeing none, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to continue to reiterate my strong opposition to this bill. As mentioned, DTS does a study of how bus fare increases would impact poor and minority communities as part of their analysis that goes into this. And what did their Title VI analysis find? It found that 71% of our bus riders have a household income of less than $60,000. 21% of them have a household income of less than $21,000. For a family of four, that puts them in the 40% AMI category. And we as a council, when we talk about housing policy, we're always talking about what we can do to help the poorest families on this island. And yet right now, we are about to raise their fares and charge them an additional $110 a year. And for a couple, that's an additional $220 a year. And if they have kids, it's additional money on top of that. 20% of the people boarding the bus today use cash. And so for each one of them, that's 20,000+ riders a day. They're gonna be paying an extra quarter, and that adds up over the course of a year. 54% of our bus riders don't have a driver's license. They have no other alternative. And we always hear from people, who don't want us to raise their vehicle weight tax, but we rarely hear from these folks who are riding the bus, diligently paying their $3, perhaps soon to be $3.25, and we need to be doing something for them. And so I really hope that we'll slow roll this. If it gets to full council, I hope it doesn't get there. This is really something that's going to hurt families around this island, and I, even though I'm not a member of this committee, when it gets to full council, I'll be voting no. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Any further discussion from the members? I did have one more question for the director, if that's okay, Director Morton. And I do appreciate, I want to thank Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. I know that he's expressed, his concern that as we all do, we care about what happens with everyone in our districts and how this will impact the everyday person and especially the riders. But you've done lots of research and I appreciate all the efforts. I want to thank you, first of all, for working so diligently with my office and I, because we know that this has not been something that's been easy to come to. But hearing all of the discussion, I would like if you have any manao on how, if the city did not at this time increase the necessary rates that the commission has stated, how would that impact the city and us being able to provide the necessary resources, not just for transportation, but outside of that, but especially in your department?
Sure. The fare levels right now are about 45 million per year. The expenditures are about 440 million per year. So only a small portion of this. For our next year's budget, we anticipate increases. They haven't come to you yet, but they will, of substantial increases for collective bargaining, for other inflationary increases, likely in the ballpark of more than $20 million in additional cost. To address some of the issues that I heard from some of the testimony, and I certainly buy into the issues of that we need to promote public transit for all the public transit reasons, that keep it for climate reasons, for congestion reasons, and for all of those reasons. But losing $5 million, which is the approximate amount that this revenue would have, if we took that out of bus service, it would have a much greater impact than the increase in the fare level. And I think that's the reality that we really have to look at, is either we make transit essentially free, or we try to have a system where it's moderated, where we skew the, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam mentioned that 40% of the people were in the low income. However, the low income criteria is a 30% level for those that are in that category. The issue of the $3 versus $3.25, there are options for that. The option is get a holo card, and that would help us to reduce the expenses that we have on the ever dwindling amount of cash we carry relative to the use of the holo card. So I guess those would be the answers. Is there's no easy way to raise fares. I've been a public transit advocate for more than 50 years, so it pains me to come and to raise fares. But I think that what we're looking for here is a balance between the 10% or so of the amount that users are paying for the service and the 90% that the public is paying.
Thank you so much, Director. I appreciate that. And I do want to thank you. I know that in going back and forth, both sides, we have to compromise, and we weren't all able to get everything that we would have liked. And I know on your part, the department was really willing to negotiate and give up certain things that maybe you would have liked to have had, but we were advocating for. I don't know, Vice Chair Nishimoto, his office, and myself, we were really advocating for the kupuna. Councilmember Nishimoto was really a strong advocate for making sure that those rates were kept intact. So I want to, again, thank you, because you did mention that you took into account the low income, our kupuna, our handy van, and the PCAs, which is another thing that we put back into it to find that balance. So thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 54, 2025, CD1 be amended to a CD2 identified as OCS 2025-095/12/16/2025 at 3:02 p.m. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 54, 2025, CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Members, moving on to agenda item number 5, Bill 55, 2025, CD1. This bill relates to multifamily rental housing program fees. Members, we posted on the agenda a proposed CD2 version of the bill, OCS 2025-0941/12/15/2025 at 9:32 a.m., submitted by myself. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. And with us today from the administration, we have from the Department of Housing and Land Management, Director Kevin Auger. Oh, and we also have from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Councilmember Okimoto, thank you for calling BFS up first. Honorable council members, I'm Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We do have a pending written testimony on Bill 55 related to the proposed CD2. And if you don't have it yet, I'll highlight a rather short testimony on that. With regard to Bill 55, proposed CD2, we comment that BFS does not maintain separate or special accounts in the general fund. Therefore, revenues designated to go to a special account of the general fund that are not encumbered or expended before lapsing would roll over into the general fund at the end of the year. Therefore, as the Department of Housing and Land Management succinctly explained in its Department Communication number 834-2025, we respectfully request that the fees collected under Bill 55 relating to Section 6-34.8, small b in parentheses, be deposited into the general fund and appropriated during the annual executive budget preparation process as required by the charter. That's it. I'll take questions from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, do we have questions for the director? Okay. Thank you very much. Director Ajay, would you like to share anything at this time?
Aloha and good morning, Committee Chair Okimoto and honorable council members. Kevin Auger, Director of the Department of Housing and Land Management. The Department of Housing and Land Management supports the proposed CD2 to Bill 55. We appreciate the council's support and assistance. And Chair Okimoto, we thank you very much for your office's help in moving this along, with the exception of the concerns raised by the Department of Fiscal Services relative to Section 5 in the special account. The Department of Housing and Land Management has no other concerns with the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ajay. Members, do we have any questions for the director? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, members, we are in discussion. Okay. I want to just, again, mahalo the Department of Housing and Land Management, but especially to Mr. Gavin Thornton. He worked really diligently. Director Ajay, he worked so hard with my office, and so I just want to thank you for the team, and especially Gavin for all that he did. It was a lot of, again, going back and forth to make sure that we had what was necessary and addressing the issues and concerns that your department had. So thank you again. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 55, 2025 CD1 be amended to the posted CD2 identified as OCS 2025-094/12/15/2025 at 9:32 a.m. and be further amended in section 5 on page 3 for deposits, remove reference to special account as indicated by the director. Any objections or reservations to the amended CD? Okay, hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 55, 2025, CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you again, Director Kawano and Director Ajay, for working with my team. Moving on to agenda item number 6, Bill 63, 2025 CD1. This bill relates to real property taxation. Members, I will now defer to the introducer of the bill, Councilmember Kia Aina, for further explanation.
Thank you, Chair, for scheduling the final committee hearing for this measure. As a reminder to my colleagues, Bill 63 updates the city's current property dedication for residential A property owners who are able to be charged at a residential rate if they were to dedicate their property for a certain period of time. After reviewing the current program, which has been unsuccessful because it's pegged at 80% area median income, we updated the law to provide for a 5-year period for rental at monthly rates for households earning up to 100% of the area median income. Eligible tenants may have an annual household income that exceeds 100% of the AMI, but they must live in the rental as their principal home and must not have an ownership interest in another dwelling or lodging unit. Since this dedication restricts the monthly rental rate the property owner can charge, the owner's tax savings are guaranteed to be passed on to the renter in the form of lower monthly rental rates. And I just appreciate the opportunity to have this measure heard today. I have several questions for the administration as it relates to recommendations from the Honolulu Board of Realtors at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kia'aina. At this time, we would like to welcome back up from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Good morning again, Budget Chair Okimoto, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. I don't have any comments on the CD1 version of the bill, but understand that there may be questions, so take them now. Thank you.
Members, do we have questions for the Director? Councilmember Kia'aina.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for your communications with me, but I'd like to get this on the record because both the Grassroots Institute as well as the Honolulu Board of Realtors have been following this measure very closely. I think they want to achieve what we want to achieve, which is to increase the rental housing inventory for local families. So the first issue has to do with the AMI. It currently is 80%. We are proposing 100%. The realtors are requesting or recommending that the AMI be increased to 120% AMI. Could you opine on that?
In terms of context, we are going to be entering a time where revenues are going to be flat. And the flat revenue trend may continue for a while, just based on where we're headed, with regard to the economy. Therefore, we want to be really careful on any type of measure that reduces our main source of revenue to fund services for the city. And that is why BFS strongly recommends starting with the 100% limit, if you will, and working towards analyzing data as the program gets put into place. I'll be required, or BFS will be required, to report on the status of the program on an annual basis. I think as we do that, we can tweak the program as we move forward. We don't want to be too aggressive in walking from revenue that can be used for services.
Sure, but
that's where we're coming from.
But you would be open, after you look at the data after a year, to potentially increasing it if it is warranted, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, but weighing all other factors,
yes,
right?
Including the impact to government services.
And covering priorities of the city.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to also now talk about the grace period. To be considered a violation of the dedication, the violation would need to continue for 45 consecutive days or more during any tax year within the applicable dedication period. The realtors have suggested a 60-day period in which the violation continues. What is your position?
BFS's position is that 45 days is adequate. Again, we have an annual reporting requirement, so we can assess that period of time as we move forward. We believe 45 days is adequate.
Okay, I'd like to now talk about the dedication period. I know current law provides for 10 years. Under my measure, it is for 5 years. The realtors are proposing 2 years. What is your position on that?
BFS position is that a 2-year dedication period is far too short. It's going to result in a lot of unnecessary activity that will have to be evaluated because people will be going in and out of the program. a lot. We feel that by giving back to homeowners or property owners that have multiple properties, they should be committed to the program for 5 years. We feel that the 5-year dedication period is reasonable, and it would result in consistency in the program, and it would also help to administer the program effectively.
Thank you for that clarification. For the dedication period, current law provides for 5 years. My measure provides 2 years. The realtors are proposing 1 year. What is your position on that?
We feel that the 1-year period is way too short. 2 years is reasonable. I'm sorry, the current requirement of rollback at 2 years is reasonable. 1 year rollback is too short. We should keep everything as is, because there won't be adequate teeth in the bill to ensure compliance.
Sure, but perhaps in the future, should the program be successful and we don't see violations, then that might be an area that might be reconsidered. But I agree with you to make sure that we have some teeth in the bill to have compliance. Lastly, with regard to the sale of property during the dedication period, I understand that they were proposing to, in the transfer of the title, that they were looking to see if we could insert language if the owner is an owner occupant. And I'm just assuming, and I'll hear from you, but I'm assuming that if you're an owner occupant, then you should avail yourself of the homeowner's exemption for that category, right?
That is correct.
So, okay, but could you just elaborate on your position on this?
Yeah, so in these cases, the property owner would have investment property. They would have Res A property, and they'd have other property that'd be the place of primary residence. We feel that if we put the provision in to provide an owner-occupant exemption, let's say upon sale. So you have a property in this dedication program. Supposedly it's sold. The new owner, the buyer, says, this is going to be my primary residence. I should have Res A treatment. We feel that if you allow that, why have this dedication? It doesn't make any sense, because we're trying to create a situation where property owners with multiple properties can keep their properties in long-term rental, benefit from it by paying residential rates, but at the same time benefit the homeowner by having a cap in place in terms of the amount of rent that can be charged. If we're going to allow homeowners that have a dedication on this program to get out of it at any time at will, why have the dedication? It doesn't make any sense for them.
Thank you for discussion. Chair, I will not be making any recommendations for change to the current CD1. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. Members, any further questions for Director Kawano? I had a quick one just to piggyback off of what Councilmember Kiaina was asking, and you did mention that the projection for revenue being flat and the impacts of that. And I know this might be challenging because it is an estimate, but what do you anticipate or see the potential revenue impact from this measure, the CD1 specifically?
It's really too early to tell. It's going to depend on the amount of applicants we have that are approved. As Councilmember Kiaina mentioned, with a 80% AMI threshold, it was very difficult to get applicants to show interest in the current current law. So we are working towards being a little more flexible to see if we can get more interest. And like I said, we have to do, BFS will have to do reporting on the program going forward annually. So we'll see how it goes, and we can determine if we should make changes to, the requirements, under Bill 63.
Okay, thank you, Director. Okay, members, any further questions? Thank you, Director. Seeing none, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Yes, Chair, we have one standing by.
Okay, we'd like to welcome from the Honolulu Board of Realtors, Suzanne Young.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Suzanne Young. I'm the CEO for the Honolulu Board of Realtors, and we support the intent. We are committed to helping our locals stay here and providing affordable housing opportunities. The way the bill is currently written and the way that the practice is right now, it does not encourage or incentivize property owners to participate in this program. And the way the bill is being proposed, we fear, does not go far enough to address the issues that we know with property owners who may want to take advantage of this. So the end result is if changes aren't made to strengthen it and incentivize the property owners, again, nobody will participate in this. The property owner will be paying a Res A higher property tax rate, and that will ultimately go to the current tenant.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Members, questions for the testifier? Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you for being here today. Suzanne, could you comment on what the administration has said with regard to the recommendations that you've made? Do you have any comments on any one of them?
I do. When we're proposing changes to incentivize, we're not going to get a whole lot of people to participate in this. There's nobody participating in it now. So I'm not sure the significant financial impacts. A 5-year dedication is when our realtors speak with property owners. 5 years is a very long time, very long time. For someone to commit their property and life changes happen. And the way that the bill is structured, you will be penalized even in a year that you were in compliance because of the rollback. So it is unfair, and it is, bottom line, it makes property owners just weigh the risk, and it doesn't afford them an opportunity to participate in this. I have an example which I think we have to look at real life examples. We have a local family. They have inherited the family's home. They've been renting to Neighbor Island folks for 7 years. 7 years we've got a long-term rental. And when we had discussions with them about whether or not they would consider a dedication, they said, but we're looking at our daughter possibly coming back. And if we sell the home to her, what happens? Well, that's going to be an owner-occupant. But I don't understand the way we see the bill. Even if their daughter comes back, purchases the home, becomes an owner-occupant, they're still subject to the rollback taxes. So I'd like to know that that's not going to be the case. But that's not the way we see the bill currently in its current form. And you all know that when you file the homeowner exemption, it takes you like 18 months before you're actually assessed at the right tax classification, right? We have a problem with that process as well.
Thank you. Maybe after you conclude, then we could call the BFS director up to clarify that.
Yeah, I really do believe that this has potential, but I think we need to work together to really, with BFS, with the council, and really to identify something that's going to be meaningful.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. Members, any further discussions for the testifier? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Clerks, do we have any other in-person testifiers? I'd like to welcome Angela Melody Young.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, CARES. Wishing to comment. I'd love to provide comments on this community concern. So, for example, if the taxes are going to then be transferred to an owner within the family, there can be created a classification of tax exemptions for the one who inherits the family home. So, for example, in the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, when a Hawaiian home is transferred to the ownership of its descendants, then there are exemptions created, but then I think they have some sort of Native Hawaiian exemption that's either from, I'm probably oversimplifying it, but just the basics of it is that there's more equity and financial helpfulness that's provided for those who are in disadvantaged circumstances. Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. Members, do we have questions for the testifier? Okay. Is there anyone else here in the chamber who would like to testify on Bill 63? Seeing none, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Kiaina.
I call the BFS director up again.
So if we could have Director Kawano come back up to the stand. And I believe Councilmember Kiaina wanted you to address some of the concerns from the Board of Realtors, but
specifically with regard to the specific fact pattern that she gave of the family and the daughter comes home. Do you have any mana'o on that?
So BFS's thoughts are that, this bill was written in the perspective of helping the renter, to encourage rentals to tenants and making it affordable. With regard to families, where families have multiple properties, we don't believe that a focus on, the owner of the property with regard to, the sale price and, exposure to rollback should be the focus. The focus should be having a situation where you encourage tenants who want to rent property from property owners that have investment property for a longer-term period. That's what we're looking at. We for property owners, especially those with the homeowner's exemption, are continuing to review the exemption amount, and we're going to be increasing that. With regard to residential A, we have residential A tax rates that make up a significant part of our real property tax program, and with regard to that class, if you will, our goal is to maintain the revenue level that we collect from Res A, unless these properties are going to be used and dedicated for rental under this program to assist and encourage tenants to actually stay home and rent locally. That's our focus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. Director, sorry, I'm not sure. So if I heard the answer correctly, so was the issue that the testifier shared, could that happen, and how can we address that? Maybe I just didn't understand. Maybe I didn't hear it.
Okay, why don't we restate the issue? What was the issue?
That if there's a homeowner and then they apply to the program, but then their daughter comes back or a family member comes back and then resides in the home, they now have to retroactively pay back because the home is classified back as owner occupied. And correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that's what I heard, Suzanne. So the question was, the way the bill is stated right now, that the local families will be impacted if we don't address the
Well,
bill in this area.
So if the daughter comes back, and I heard that perhaps the daughter buys the home as well. So if that's the case, that the daughter will apply for her own homeowner exemption. I don't see where there's impact. Now, if the home has this dedication under Bill 63 on it, there is a grace period for the family to figure out what to do with regard to the rental and to enter into a new agreement with a new renter. Now, the bill limits the amount that can be charged for the rental, right? It's capped out at a certain AMI level as specified in the bill. If the family member comes home, the rent could be set lower than that, with the understanding that at some point in the future, it could be, if the dedication has 3 years left, 3 years out, they can do the acquisition. If there's 2 years left, 2 years out, they can acquire the property from the parents. So we don't, if your focus is to provide housing to people that can't afford to buy and have to rent, we don't see how that impacts the homeowner significantly, because you can go ahead and find people to rent at those lower rent levels.
Okay.
We're trying to encourage that. We're trying to encourage people to rent at affordable levels.
Understood. And I think that's what we know the intent of the bill is. Just so I can clarify what you stated. So you're saying that there are caveats. If the owners of the home then change from going under the program to having it go to a family member who purchased it, there are ways to avoid them being penalized. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, it's going to require planning, right? So, some homeowners own 2 additional properties. So maybe one stays in Res A, and the other can be under this new Bill 63 program at residential rates. There's going to be planning that has to be involved. And again, as I stated earlier, we're going to be reviewing the impact of the program, and if we have to tweak different components of it, we will.
Okay,
because
thank
we
you.
think this is a good thing to do.
Thank you, Director. Councilmember Kiaina.
Chair Okimoto, I did want to say that in all likelihood, in circumstances like that, they would not avail themselves of this program. They would charge market rent to have the flexibility. So I just want to let you know the intent of this bill is not to resolve every fact pattern that is presented to us. So I think in that case, they're not likely going to utilize this program.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. Members, any further discussions for the Director? Okay. Members, I do have to go back and make available oral testimony. So if I missed that, I apologize. So we'd like to proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further testimony or further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 63, 2025, CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 7, Bill 76, 2025. This bill relates to government transparency. Members, this bill was introduced by Council Chair Waters and myself, and I will defer to Council Chair Waters for any further explanation at this time.
Thank you so much. The purpose of the bill is to increase transparency, accountability, and public engagement, and to further the Council's goal of reducing the cost of living for our residents. It requires the Budget and Fiscal Services Director, no later than January 1st, 2027, to develop, maintain, and make publicly available a searchable online data of city revenues and expenditures that is free, open to the public, updated at least monthly, and accessible through an open checkbook style, web-based system. It requires the database to include specific expenditure information and protect confidential information. According to the U.S. government's open data site, data.gov, 55 cities or counties and 41 states have some form of the Open Checkbook Data System. Honolulu's own Open Data Honolulu portal seems to have been neglected, with the exception of finances at Hanauma Bay and posting copies of the city budget, which also, by the way, is available on the City Council website. The most updated information is a check registry from fiscal year 2012, which includes over 168,000 individual expenditures. So I want to say that again. So the city used to have this. And for some unknown reason, and perhaps the administration can explain this, although it was the previous administration that halted it in 2012, excuse me. Our residents deserve much more from our government. An open checkbook portal and the transparency it provides would reduce the risk of mismanagement or misuse of public funds, increase the transparency of government, provide for better oversight, and helps ensure that government spending matches public priorities, encourages responsible spending by departments, and identifies wasteful or inefficient spending, and increases fair competition in contracting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. And with us again today, we have from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Thank you, Budget Chair Okimoto, Chair Waters, Honorable Council Members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. To the chair who introduced the bill, I'd like to thank the chair for actually raising the issue and introducing the measure. We responded with our concerns in Department Communication 18, 2026. So we have that posted. We don't have an issue with transparency. What we are concerned about is setting up this database, open checkbook portal the right way, because in our system, we have a lot of personal and confidential information in our transaction files, and it's going to take time. We're going to have to mask some of the data that provides personal information on people. And we want to make sure that we have everything done right. And as a result, we're going to work with DIT. We are working with DIT and our Chief Data Officer, who is here, if you have questions for Kira Chokum, because we do agree that getting more current in terms of what we provide to the public is important. We've looked at open book portals of various cities on the mainland, and they all vary. And there are a couple on the West Coast with an open checkbook, but they're not easy to use. Therefore, review this process as an IT project, a major one that's going to have cost. And as a result, what we'd like to ask for is the council members' consideration to work openly with BFS, our Chief Data Officer, and IT, DIT, to make this a joint project, so we put into place what the public wants, what the council members need. We feel that attempting to codify an open checkbook is too restrictive. We should work together and get it done. And lastly, with regard to transparency to the public, we recommend that this searchable online checkbook cover all transactions from all branches of government of the city, not just the executive branch, but the legislative branch as well. So we're willing and open to work with council and the public to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, do we have questions for the director? Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, Director. Can you tell us, though, I'm not sure why in 2012 the administration stopped. Of course, this was a previous administration, but like I mentioned, there was 168,000 transactions that was on the city's website, and that's the kind of data that this bill anticipates or is looking for. But why was it stopped? I know you had Steve Takara here.
Yeah,
I'm sure that he would have the answer to that.
but Steve probably would have nothing to do with it, but
Right.
because I think that type of access would have probably been provided by accounting or accounts payable. So I don't think real property assessment would have had, you know, any kind of involvement in that. But I do agree, we should do something. We looked at the state's open book, if you will. I don't think it's called checkbook. And it's essentially static data. So they pulse in data sets, I think, monthly and for different purposes. You mentioned Hanauma Bay. You know, the Friends of Hanauma Bay spoke up at some point because of the past lawsuit, I'm sure, and requested that the city post information on Hanauma Bay so that, you know, their members could access and hold us accountable and try to help make things better. So I think if we all focus together, we can get there and provide the public with something that's useful, at the same time protect personal and confidential information.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Members, any other questions, any further questions for the director? I had a couple, or maybe just one. You mentioned that you looked at other states and that there are other examples. Some were more effective than others. Do you have an example of which ones were more effective than others and what those
I looked at City of Seattle, City of San Francisco, City of San Jose. I looked at Los Angeles. I looked at San Diego. And they're not the same. They're different. I mean, the initial look and feel may be kind of comparable, but when you dig into and try to search for things, how the search mechanism work is different. Some of them have more user-friendly platforms, and others look like a data dump. So you pull what you're looking for, and it's a dump, so you have to go through it. So question I have, is that what we want to do?
Which ones were the user-friendly ones that you had looked into and saw that they were more effective in their?
I thought actually I looked at City of Portland as well. I thought their website was pretty good. I thought Seattle's was pretty good, you know, in terms of user-friendliness. I think you need levels. I think you need, you know, a higher level dashboard type view first, but you want perhaps the ability to drill down. If you see something in the dashboard that looks, you know, out of whack, or you have questions about it, that's what I think, you know, I'm hoping we can get to. But I'm also saying that I don't think we should codify this because it's restrictive. It's not useful. I think we should just openly work together, and, you know, as we move along with the project, we can do informational briefings along the way, and, you know, discuss target dates to implement. And I just don't believe a bill is necessary. But I'm not opposing it because we're moving in that direction, working with DIT and our chief data officer.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that you're always trying to offer options and give suggestions. And you indicated both in your written testimony as well as here that you indicated that you'd be willing to work with us and requesting us to work with the administration instead of codifying it. And you suggested through the budget committee. And I guess I'm wondering, like, what would you give us this data and what would that look like? Because I hear that you are willing to, but obviously we haven't gotten to that point. And that's why we're at this. We're discussing this today.
We should probably have a meeting and talk about a schedule to get started. We would include Kira, our chief data officer, because she has a technical expertise, but sort of lay things out, calendar it, and then you know, lay out, you know, the milestones, what our objective is, the milestones, and work on it together. But, you know, part of it will be doing some due diligence as well to find out what all of the council members want to see and what the public wants to see as well. Ultimately, it's going to be a public website, right?
Yeah.
Oh, a portal.
Thank you, Director. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Chair, since we have the data director here, Kira, maybe it might be good for her to come and give some remarks. Director, do you mind?
Not at all.
I've
Just
had the
we're
privilege.
talking.
I've had the privilege of sitting down with her several times, and I'm looking forward to what she could do for data in general. And with the managing director's federal capacity grants team building up, I know she'd be of a great help. And I do want to note that she was a double athlete in college. She was a star, actually, at George Washington University.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina.
Aloha. Now you're making me embarrassed. Get Chair Okimoto and council members. Now I can't talk because now I'm giggling. Thank you. Okay, so.
Chair Waters wants to know what sports.
Sorry, I'll answer that separately. Anyway, so I'm in full support, by the way, of this this effort, and I think it would be wonderful for us to work together to figure out what exactly you'd like to see, how you want to see it. So we build dashboards like every day, and we now have the tools, thanks to everyone here, to approve last year's this budget, because essentially we now have the tools to build. We have a data platform now. So which means that it will be easier for us to source the data. So the data is available. We just need to work through it together to see not only what Director Kawano was saying, but what is it that you want to see, but how user-friendly do you want it to be? So it's very doable. We just need to make sure that we get the requirements from you.
Okay, thank you. Members, we have, Councilmember Kian, did you have?
All right. Thank
okay,
you.
well, I actually had a follow up, but I know Councilmember Kiaina really wants to hear what sports you played in college. I'm sorry.
Well, obviously volleyball.
Volleyball.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again, and I do want to thank you. We were able to meet last year during the budget season, and I really appreciated your energy and your willingness to work. I know that you came in and you've been given projects that are more challenging than probably the average person would even want to take on. But in looking at what this bill is asking and where the director and the administration, their input, what can be done from your end? What is necessary, feasible? I'm trying to have I don't have the expertise that you have, but I think you can see what we want as a council for transparency.
Yes. And I've also looked at kind of some of the same sites that Director Kawano and team have looked at. And I'm actually very familiar with the San Francisco site, mainly because I was from there. So essentially, open data is something that it's very prevalent nowadays. We just need to figure out, and by the way, as of January 2nd, my team has inherited that data.honolulu.gov site. So we are now going to start managing it. We're going to start governing it, and we're going to enhance it big time. So we will be hopefully surfacing through that site what we're talking about here.
And how onerous would it be to, I know that a lot of the testimony from the department was related to confidentiality and personal information and the difficulty that it would require to redact those things. So in your mind, how difficult would it be to have the information that we want, but also be able to keep the confidences that for personal information?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to have to balance the needs, of like privacy, data privacy concerns as well, and confidentiality issues. It's not that big of a deal. It's just time that we need to go through and flag those fields. And there's many techniques nowadays. We can actually, and this is where the DIT team can come into play, because within our various systems, there's a way to just obfuscate or flag certain fields. So the issue, though, is once we determine what those things are that we want to surface and whatever we want to flag, then we can build the dashboards and make them searchable and drill down as well, so to see the details. But I do agree with Director Kawano that we probably should reveal everything, right? I mean, not limited to just one department. We can actually maybe search and filter. And so these are things I think we should talk through and see what are the options. And I think it'll become clearer. We can give you kind of the pros and cons as well. in terms of, from an analytics perspective, in terms of what matters.
Thank you.
I'm up for it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Members, any further questions for the chief? Council Chair? Okay, yes, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your willingness to work with us. Just want to make a suggestion. Take a look at the Denver, Colorado system. It seems pretty easy to use and something we might be able to duplicate. And then, but timeline-wise, so the bill doesn't take effect till January 1st, 2027. That's a whole year. Is that enough time?
Well, it depends on the requirements. Let's talk through, I think it would be better for us if we have our requirements discussions first before, we actually put dates on, because I think the milestones will become evident. I mean, there's a formula to getting this done, but a lot of it will rely on us being able to get the requirements from you. So I'd like to actually spend time for us to walk through it together, and then pick and choose, and then that will determine the timeline. But it is doable.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Members, any further questions for the Chief Data Officer at this time? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Yes, Chair, we have one standing by.
Okay, I'd like to welcome back up with us from Local 5. Hi, Jolie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Waters and Chair Okimoto, for introducing this bill. It would be a shame to say no to enhanced transparency in government. And I think it's even good that, like that gentleman suggested, to expand it. Please pass this one out. We really like it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, any further in-person testifiers? Hello, Angela.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. Yeah, that'd be nice if we could have a transparent system to help us process things. So I think having this tool can help integrate data and then protect sensitive data as well, to help improve the lives of our community and the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Are there any other testifiers in person? Seeing none, we'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing no further testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate Budget and Fiscal Services and the data officer's willingness to work with us. This is a really good discussion to have, and by keeping the bill alive actually allows us to have more public discussion, including full council and then again in committee. I'm open to what they're saying, that maybe we don't need to codify it, assuming that we see work moving forward. That's why I'm just asking that we keep the bill alive at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Any further discussion, members? I want to also thank Chair Waters for signing on with this bill together, because we both have been, really big proponents for accountability and transparency. And I do want to thank Director Kawano as well as Chief Data Officer for the input. I think it's really helpful for us to continue the discussion. I will say that I think, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I think this council is not averse to taking on hard things. One thing that we took on a couple of years ago is sometimes I think we have to take on hard things so that future councils don't have to, or future departments or future administrations don't have to. And while I do hear that this may be pretty onerous and maybe time consuming and difficult, I think we're up for the challenge, whatever way it looks like, because we want to make sure that we're getting the right product out. And the status quo right now is not okay with me to just say that we're going to continue without any type of system. So whatever that looks like, I'm willing to get my boots on the ground and arms and elbows dirty, because I think what we want to do, again, Chair Waters and I, is definitely we're looking forward and whatever we can do to help future councils and future departments for the benefit of our residents. That's what we're willing to do. So That being said, I agree. I hope that we can continue the discussion. I look forward to meeting with you guys, and we can hopefully work together to make this right. That's always our goal. So the chair recommends that Bill 76, 2025 be reported out for second reading and scheduled for scheduling of a public hearing. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 8, Bill 77, 2025. This bill relates to the budget execution. Members, I will now defer to the introducers of the bill. We have Committee Chair Councilmember Nishimoto and Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for further explanation. Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to you and to the committee for considering this bill. I really appreciate it. Like the previous bill, this bill is to give the council more tools to do our job as the creator of the city budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam? No. Okay. Members would again like to welcome back up to the podium the Director of Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Thank you again, Chair Okimoto. Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. With regard to Bill 77, BFS respectfully opposes the bill. We feel that the proposed measure would authorize too much unnecessary access into the budget system. So the budget system is mentioned first in the bill, but the intent from what I can gather is to be able to monitor expenditures with regard to the budget. The expenditure information is really in our enterprise resource planning system. We can call it FIN or FIN. It's not a part of the budget. It's not a part of the budget system. When we prepare budget chapter reports for the budget process, the actual expenditures that we have in the report, so for instance, the detailed line item report is really a report writing function. The data on expenditures does not reside in the budget platform. So to do what you're intending to do, council members really need access to FIN, the financial system, not the budget system. So that's one thing we wanted to clarify. And then within the financial system, we're really concerned about confidentiality and privacy. So we have a process of analyzing what kind of access a user would need to do their job. And we would propose that if selected council members have access to the FIN system, they go through the same process. And we say that because we've been actually, over a number of years, we've had internal control findings from our annual auditors with regard to system access. And we are making progress to move off of those comments, and we don't want to go backwards. So our suggestion would be the same protocol, the same requirements that our staff go through for system access, the same would have to apply to the legislative branch or legislative users as well. So we strongly recommend that that be put in the bill if the bill continues moving forward. Lastly, if the access to the budget system is required, and if that access is provided during the budget preparation cycle, so we're right in it right now. So if the legislative users have access in this time frame through March 2nd when we submit our budget, we don't believe that's right. We've had Corporation Council look at that, and we think that if that kind of access is provided, we're really talking about an issue with regard to separation of powers, where, to keep things under control and independent, the executive branch and legislative branch of government operate separately. They have their own um, uh, they have their own, they have their responsibilities. There's cross-checking across the branches. And we feel that if we open up our system, we're really opening a can of worms, and we shouldn't do that. Therefore, we're requesting that access to the budget management system be removed from the bill. Lastly, we feel that this bill, in its current written state, is really not necessary. So we respectfully request that the movement of the bill is stopped, and we strongly recommend that we don't go down this path. The detailed response with regard to our opposition is in Department Communication 2026, and it's been posted. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, if we have questions for the Director, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Kawano. I read through your testimony, so I kind of wanted to walk you through, I think we have very different ideas of what our roles are in this, I think, from what I read from your testimony. So first off, you agree that the council is required to adopt an annual budget and capital budget by ordinance, right?
I do agree.
Okay. And that we can amend, reduce, or reallocate appropriations from the mayor's budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that the council is also required to enact an annual budget and balancing measures, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that we're also authorized to issue debt and has the responsibility for multi-year capital financing and debt management, correct?
That's correct,
okay.
Yes.
So that is the council's role, right? The administration's role is to obligate those funds, to direct departments on spending that money and deciding and giving the okay to spend the money that we put in the budget, correct?
That's one of our responsibilities, yes.
Okay, so when you talk about that it's a separation of powers issue, this bill doesn't tell you to spend money. It doesn't make you obligate a department to spend money, but it does help us fulfill our role on what you just agreed was our constitutional power in the budget, correct?
Correct, but may I comment on that?
Yes.
We feel that by charter, the mayor has the authority to pull together his budget and propose it to council members. And by providing council members access during that process, we frustrate the mayor's ability to do that. So that's where the separation of powers concern falls into place.
Okay, I don't agree with that because we're not infringing on your power that I just went over. So we can disagree on that. But I do think that even if we were to say, okay, we disagree on that, I think when you look at section 9-102 in the charter, which is the preparation and submission of the program and annual budget for the executive branch, it says not less than 120 days prior to the end of each fiscal year, the mayor shall prepare and submit to the council, and it has A, B, C, D, and D says such information as may be requested by the council. How does this information that we're requesting access to not fall under D?
In my mind,
you're talking about how when you're making the budget, you don't want to give us access to this information. Well, this section to me, when I read it, gives us access under the any such information as may be requested by the council bullet.
I think it's information as requested by the council, right? Not as accessed by the council, right? That's what the charter says that you've read to me.
What is the difference in this case? I mean,
Access could mean, depending on your intent, could mean that you're actually in the system reviewing what decisions we make as we pull the mayor's budget together.
That
And
is
then
our
if
role
you
on the
interfere with,
council, though.
but if
We're
you
not gonna be-
interfere,
we're not going to be changing the numbers in the system. That is our role in the council to make sure you execute the budget that we pass, correct?
since we're kind of going into a technical area, Kira has offered to explain based on her
Okay.
experience.
I mean, but we're talking about a general, I think, overall philosophy on where we see our roles. That's kind of what I get from your testimony. That at the heart of this is what is the admin's role and what is our role. And I think from your testimony, you give us more of an advisory function than an active one that I think we have.
I do believe you have an active function, but I also believe that the mayor should be able to prepare his executive budget in an unfettered basis.
And how is access to this information fettering the mayor and obstructing his preparation?
What if...
We're not changing any numbers in there.
Respectfully, Councilmember, what if, and I do understand that the bill currently requires limited access, so only certain legislative users will have access. And I think it's 4. But imagine this happening, the mayor has not submitted his budget, it's not March 2nd, there's a leak, so you have access, there's a leak. So there's information critical in the budget that perhaps changed before the final went out, and it shows up in the newspapers. And then we have to explain that. To me, that frustrates.
Your staff, you, and us, we all fall under 92F-19. We all fall under that for disclosure of government records, right? So.
But I don't believe I've ever gotten a 92F request on a budget during the budget process. Typically, we respond to 92F requests after the mayor's budget has been submitted on March 2nd. I've never had to provide information on budget decisions made to get to the mayor's final budget.
Okay, so I think we disagree on this, but let's, use what your argument that you're making. So you guys would be okay with us having access to it once you submit your budget?
Perhaps. I don't want to answer it now because I want to analyze what you're asking for better and have discussions with my budget team. But I'll just say maybe, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so if we asked you for access to FINS and CHERP or whatever it's called, outside, once your budget is submitted, you guys would be open to it?
Actually, yeah, you're kind of going to have that access based on what we're working on 76. We're going to, if that's a need that you want, perhaps under Bill 76 or Project 76, if we don't go ahead with codifying it, we can include the kind of, access that you need with regard to the expenditures relative to budget, yes.
Okay, so, but on the converse of that, then you're okay with us passing this too, because you're going to give it to us in 76 also then?
I'm going to oppose 77 as currently written. I just want to be clear. I on record, BFS opposes 77 as currently written.
Okay. One final thing, Chair. So, one of the, there's been many surprises since coming from the state to the city. One of the big ones has been that the budget staff does not have access to this information. When on the state side where I came from, our budget staff does have full access to the state system, which is called FAMOUS. So how is this any different than on the state side with the arguments you're making?
It depends on the type of access that you need. If you want access to live information, the state doesn't have that access. Kira is in direct contact with the state's chief data officer, and she fully understands what's provided to the legislature. It's not live, real-time online data. If you want Kira to explain to you what access is provided, she can.
I mean, my staff had access, so I mean, they know what we had. So, but I don't understand why this is an issue actually, because it was, so you're okay with giving us the same access that my staff had on the state side?
Actually, we're working on that together as a part of the 76 project, Bill 76 project. So Kira is having active discussion with her state counterpart to understand what's provided to the legislature, as a part of the budget process. So we're looking at that as we speak, and she can give you a status if you want.
But we're not provided that now.
You're not. You're provided information after the fact, right? So you request schedules. I mean, we provide tons of schedules with our budget book and the budget bill. So
you're okay with giving us the same parity that my staff had on the state side?
After we finish our research, she's still working with them. In fact, Kira just told me today that the state's going through a process of updating their data mart for the legislature. So it's going to be different. So we're kind of following along with them, if you will, right now. But I offer this. We're open to work with you to address Bill 77. So it's something that, we both can live with. But currently, in the current form, we oppose it.
If you're willing to say that whatever access we had on the state side, you'll do the same, then I'm good. So, okay, well, I look forward to working with you on this. Thank you.
Councilmember Nishimoto, same with us, and we'll work with you. Kira and I will work with you, and the BFS team.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto. Did Chief Data Officer want to come and explain anything, or are we okay with the discussion?
She'd be very happy to explain the status of her discussions with the state data team.
Okay. Thank you for being here with us.
Aloha again, Kira Shushom, Chief Data Officer. Chair Okimoto, Councilmember Nishimoto, I think you're Vice Chair. You do have access to, when you were at state, you had access to Famous's Data Mart, correct? Yeah, so the Data Mart is not a...
Actually, I didn't have access, my staff.
Oh, okay. Well, your staff had access to the Data Mart. So that is a big distinction between a real live system that's got like daily transactions or daily things going on. A Data Mart is essentially like a warehouse, a subset of that data that's presented in read-only mode for you to see. So as part of 76, something like that could be designed for 77 as well. But the distinction here is the word access. So access in kind of like our technical terminology, it means like real live logging into the live system to either look things up or whatever, but we can still provide that, but via a data mart equivalent. So we can do the same thing that state has with the old system, new system, or whatever that's gonna come up. So a data mart is intended for this type of activity where you can still have full access, but you're not having direct access into, in our case, it would be the internal systems. So it's like you're having access not to the engines of the car, but you have access to the car. You can drive the car. So that's a fine line, a distinction, but I think we would be okay giving that. So it's just like the way we're looking at 76, right? For transparency or what have you, we can do the same thing on the budget side, but not directly in the system, but we can provide the data to you in quicker fashion than, I think we do provide it like once a year or once a quarter, I don't know, Andy. But anyway, so I think it's doable, just how we refined it together.
I appreciate that. My intent with this bill is just to give us more tools to fulfill our constitutional duty. I'm not trying to impose on the admin's duty. I'm just trying to make it so that we can be the check and balance on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Chief Data Officer, and thank you, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto. Okay, seeing no further discussion or questions for the administration at this time, we'll now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Yes, Chair, we have one standing by.
Good morning, Angela.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. I think technology can help with some things, like, in our generation, we have technology and we don't have to communicate with others. We can just go on our phones and expect things to, be well in our relationships. Because we can just DM on Instagram. So I can really understand the argument from both sides. So to have access to management technology to expedite coordination in the office and to assist with financial discipline can be very helpful. I think having more staff and advanced technology can help manage more coverage of various community concerns. It provides tools for integrating data at a higher speed and at a greater capacity to accommodate and improve the lives of the county workers and the citizens living in our county. The digital tools for planning, tracking, controlling finances, forecasting, predicting patterns, and reporting can reduce human errors such as laziness and people that make emotional decisions, because a software program leads to making systematic decisions while providing objective data to facilitate analysis of countywide financial issues affecting our lives.
In support or comments?
Wishing to comment.
Comments, okay.
Yeah,
thank you
I'm
very
neutral.
much. Members, do we have questions for the testifier? Seeing no further questions, we'll now proceed. Oh, is there anyone else here in the chamber who would like to testify on this item? Seeing no further in-person testifiers, we'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no further testimony, members, we are in discussion. Okay, thank you. I just want to send an I want to mahalo the introducers of this bill, and especially mahalo Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto and your efforts in ensuring that we can find that balance. We take our job seriously. We want to best perform our duties and fulfill our responsibilities to the best of our abilities. And I agree with you. Any types of tools and other measures that we can to fulfill our duties, we're hoping to have them available and make sure that we can fulfill our jobs. With the discussion, and I appreciate the director and the chief data officer here. I think we had really great discussion. I am going to recommend at this time that the Bill 77 continue on, and hopefully we can continue working with the administration to work out the areas that they have concerns with. But again, I appreciate all that you shared. Committee Vice Chair, did you want to say anything before I proceed?
I appreciate that, Chair, and I am willing to work with the admin to come to some kind of middle ground.
Okay, thank you, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto. So that being said, again, the chair, I'm sorry, Councilmember Kia Aina.
Just with reservations.
Okay, thank you. So the chair recommends that Bill 77, 2025 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing, noting the reservations of Councilmember Kia Aina. Are there any other reservations? Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered. I want to thank everyone for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.